Today is September 19th, and today we're going to talk about knowing yourself. It's this big thing in the conscious community about everybody running around saying know thyself. And when you think about it, what does that really mean to know thyself, right? You should know yourself. You're walking around with yourself all day, right? So how could it be possible that you don't know yourself? So what they say is, in order to know yourself, you study your history, right? And then they say study your history again. Well, what do I do after I studied my history? Then you study yourself. So today we're going to talk about that because a lot of us are well versed in our history, right? We know where we come from. We know where we think we come from. We all have, an approach to understanding our history, and it's personal, I guess, to you. So what I want to talk about today is how well do you know yourself? So I want you to think about it like this. If you were to look at this paper and take this sheet of paper and look at it as this represents all knowledge of self, or all knowledge in the universe, period. Everything there is to know, right? So this is just an open playing field. Now, when you start to think about what you know about everything in the universe, right? It's about this much actually. Inside of the dot, it would be, okay, I know myself, I know my name, I know my family, I know where I come from, know where I was born, I know my job and what my job entails, right? So you think inside that you know yourself. You may know stuff like, okay, I know my favorite color, I know what song I like, I know what makes me laugh, I know what makes me cry. So when you look at those things, it's like, okay, I'm clear that I know that stuff about myself. Then you go into a realm of what you don't know. What you don't know is also clear. Like I don't know rocket science. I don't know how signals are transferred through the air when I'm making a phone call. But I do know that if I pick up the phone and I dial these numbers and I push send, that somebody else should pick up on the other line, right? Or that call should go through. I'm not sure how those things take place, but I'm sure that if I pick up a cell phone and I dial it, that it'll make the call, right? Now, there is a whole nother realm of what you don't know. So if you look at this circle here and you look at right here is the knowledge of things that you know. Well, what's all of this? All of this is what you don't know. You don't even know you need to know. This is where the power and the answers and the mysteries to your life lie. And that's where we're going to go today. All right. So now I'm going to give you an example. When you start to look at what drives your life, right, and what stops your life, you're going to look at the obstacles. You're going to look at the complaints. Complaints are nothing but obstacles. Things that delay you, stop you. They hold you up in the progression of your life. So the first thing you want to start to do is look at what do you most commonly complain about. That's a good place to start. That's usually a barrier or obstacle. Why is it there? So I'm going to give you an example. And a lot of you probably can relate to this, right? You hear people say all the time, like, a woman would say, dear, why are you single? Oh, I don't know where I'm single. Then you give an answer. Oh, the answer is, it might look like, oh, there's no good men in the world, right? What keeps the complaint in place is that you actually get something from it. That's why the complaint stays there, right? You get to get let off the hook and become the victim most of the time. So what happens is you say, okay, there's no good men in the world. Okay, well, we know that's not true, right? There are good men in the world. Okay, well, how come you don't have one? So then when you start to delve in and go deep within, you start to say, okay, well, and I might say to you, why don't you go to an event? Go to an event and your excuse is, let's say it's going to be some good men there, right? And your excuse may be, oh, well, I don't like crowds, right? Well, if you want a conscious man or you want a certain type of man, you might want to go to an event where conscious men go to, right? But you'll never meet him because you're stuck in a house, stuck on, I don't like crowds. So what you're going to do is go from that point and look at why don't you like crowds? If you trace it back, 9 times out of 10, most of the time it goes back to something in your childhood where it may look like, okay, I don't like crowds because one time I got lost as a little girl in a sea of people. My parents couldn't find me and I was afraid and I was alone and I was scared. So outside of that comes this fear of, I don't like crowds. You don't quite know why you don't like crowds unless you trace it back to when was the first time you felt unsafe, unsure about being in a crowd. That's how it looks. That's inside of the realm what you didn't know, you didn't even know about yourself. See, the thing is, if you knew about it, you can remove the barrier and move on. But because you're living your everyday, your everyday life, you're not actually thinking along the realms of what is it that's stopping me. So you want to look there. I'm going to give you an example of what you don't know, you didn't even know from my own life. I used to have this big thing in my relationships where I would demand a phone call if I was in a relationship, right? Some women don't like to be called. I like to be called. And so what I would do was, if a man wasn't calling me the way I wanted him to call me, right? Which was at least once every day. If he didn't call me that day, something would like go off and it would almost be like, something's wrong, right? How come he didn't call me? So now I'll call him and I'll be like, how come you didn't call me today? Like you were that busy that you couldn't call. And so finally, I've been dating like 27 years, I'm 47. So, right, like 27 years of this nonsense been going on. So, and a lot of times it sabotaged my relationship because I deemed it as he didn't care. So what happened was finally I got with a brother and he said, you know what, I'm not gonna be calling you every day. And I was like, what do you mean you're not gonna be calling me every day? The phone call is important. That's relationship 101, right? You should call your girlfriend. He was like, I'm not gonna be calling you every day. So in that moment, I was done with him. Like, he ain't gonna be calling me every day, well, forget that. But I had to take a look at, because the phone call kept coming up, resurfacing throughout my dating, like throughout my whole life in my relationships. And what I discovered was, I had to ask myself, why is the phone call so important to you, right? Well, the phone call, not getting the phone call meant to me, there was a disconnection in the relationship. He wasn't thinking about me. This is what I made it mean. Not saying this is what you made it mean. I'm just saying this is the way I interpreted it, right? Is that he didn't care and there was a disconnection, right? And it left me with a sense of abandonment, right? Like that short period of time, there was a disconnection. Now, when I traced it back to, when was the first time you felt the disconnection from a person that you loved? First time I felt a disconnection from a person I loved is when my father left when I was 5 years old. And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why he didn't come back. I was a little girl, not sophisticated enough to understand what had happened at that moment that he didn't come back. So I made it mean at that moment that he didn't love me, right? I made it mean a whole lot of things over the course of the years. So what I did to compensate was I took on being like a people pleaser, right? And what else did I make it mean? I took on being like a smart girl, like really being smart. And as I became older, the way I would bait men in is, okay, I'm going to be a nurse one day, you should get me and love me. But it was all a plan or a trap to set up security so I didn't feel abandoned. So every time I didn't get the phone call, it was like post-traumatic stress syndrome of my father leaving, the disconnection, right? This is in the realm of what you don't know. And the reason why I didn't know it all those years is because I didn't know I needed to know it. I just thought phone call was relationship 101. I did not trace it back to the issues of abandonment, right? So anytime, like as soon as the guy did call, it was like, oh, a relief, like, okay, we're still good. Our relationship is still on and everything's fine. So anytime I didn't get the phone call, it was like you were kind of like on edge, like, okay, You're thinking, is he with another girl? Has somebody taken him away? He's not feeling you anymore. Like, all of these things come into play, right? When simply, if you go into yourself and find out what drives you, then you're able to remove the barrier and the obstacle. So today, if I don't get the phone call, I'm not tripping, right? Because I know the source of where that anxiety came from. That's all I'm saying, right? Is you want to start to go within yourself. I think I have probably like a million examples, because I really started to do work on myself to figure out, who am I? Like, when they say know thyself, oh yeah, I know myself. Not saying that I know everything, but I know the majority of the things that was stopping me in my life, so that I can move forward. So that's all I have for you guys today, and check me out in the next video. But I hope you enjoyed it. Peace. Hi, thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out the links below, and also go to Facebook and join our group. The name of the group is called Vibrational Matters. Thanks again. Peace.
We get up in the morning feeling tired. Sometimes we feel good, sometimes bad. But we go through it with feelings. From the root to the fruit. That's where everything starts. What you say?